Hey, hey, hey. Welcome to today's edition of Brains and Baubles Live. I'm your host, Davina Dandridge, and I talk about how to apply emotional intelligence, my certain technique, into your life, right? Because we all experience roller coasters in life, the ups and downs, disappointments, betrayal, where we have to change and pivot. So when I talk about it, I bring guests on who talk about it in the same way. Now, listen, we all have ups and downs, especially when we get to be in a certain point in our lives and we have to learn how to pivot and do things. That's what we're here to talk about. Because sometimes we don't know where to get this information and don't even know who's experiencing the same things. We often think that we're the only ones going through something, but I can tell you that you are not. So, my guest today, I have known for over 10 years. And listen, when it comes to hair, this person knows what she's doing, honey. Give her a bundle and let her go. And when I say let her go, she has done hair all over the city of Detroit, all over the country. You've probably seen her work in ads at your local beauty supply. And she has done hair at some of them plays you've been to too. So we're going to talk to my guest, Okela Neveaux, and we're going to talk about what her life is like, how she's managed to get over hurdles and still press on to be the person that she wants to be. So without further ado, I bring on my special guest. And when I tell you she a ball of energy and a ball of fun, here is my guest, Okela Neveaux. She's connecting to audio. Hey, Okela. Oh, wait. There we go. Hey.
Hello.
Yes, we did it.
We did it. We did it. Well, hello.
Hi there. It's
How
so
are
good to
you?
see you. Listen,
It's good to see you too.
we've been working on this for a week, haven't we?
We have. And even though I'm not a techie, I'm going to be one before it's all over with.
That's right. That's right. We learn new skills all the time, but I am so
That's
glad
right.
to have you on. And I was explaining to our audience that you have taken your desire to give the gift of beauty to people in so many different directions that the sky is the limit for you. And
Well,
so,
yes,
a
for
lot of people think,
everybody.
but you got it. But people always think that, I'm going for this one thing and I see how people use this one skill. This is the only way that it can be done. And you are a result or proof that you can take one thing and you can, like they say at home, parlay it into many different avenues. And what you've done, and which is so fantastic, is that you have created the environment that is conducive to the way that you want to live. So I just want you to go ahead and just introduce yourself, Okela, and then we'll just get into our discussion.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Okela Neveaux. I'm a hairstylist, makeup artist, fashion stylist, all around person that just pulls things together, artistic coordinator, depending on the situation.
All right.
So I just knew, even when I first started doing hair and became licensed, I always knew I didn't just want to be a stylist behind the chair.
Okay.
So I was always looking for different avenues to take it to another level, a different level. And over the last couple years, I have been off.
Okay.
So, I kind of put everything at a standstill, but
Mm-hmm.
now I'm at that point to where I'm ready to jump back in. And once again, not just be regular.
Right, right. And you know what? What you said is so interesting because we have things that happen in our lives that are out of our control, that are unexpected, that really change our lives. And I want you to share that. But the thing that I like that you said is that you took the time off. It wasn't that you had to be off. Because of the circumstance alone, you understood within yourself that, hey, I need this time. And
That's
now you
right.
recognize that this is the time to now proceed.
I feel ready.
Okay.
And that took a moment to
Okay.
feel ready,
What did
because
unready feel like? What does that feel like?
Unready is a place where you know that protecting your energy is the most important thing that you can do for
Absolutely.
yourself.
Absolutely.
Because protecting your energy means that I can't deal with certain people because, in my business, I have a lot of clients that like difficult things,
Yeah,
like everybody's not coming to me just for a wash, blow, dry, and curl.
that's
I
right.
got
I
people
know
that
that.
want Right. I got people that want crazy colors. Everybody has their imagination and they
Yeah,
want miracles to happen.
right.
And you got to be in a great place for that. You got to be open minded for that because at the end of the day, if you feel within yourself you can't handle someone calling you 50 times or
Yeah,
dealing with all the drama that may come with a particular project, then
yeah.
don't put yourself in position for the project.
You're like a bartender.
Yes, I used to want to be a psychologist, and I feel like I still end up get a chance to do that, but standing on the opposite side of the chair.
Well, that's the position that I'm in. Like after you've experienced things and you've come through things and you have wisdom in certain areas, especially when you are presented with people's problems by default, because you're there, they need somebody to talk to, and you want to be able to share good advice. You want to be able to share something that, especially in a community, you want to bring people together and everybody be positive. Once you get into a certain
That's right.
space, you don't mind sharing those things,
Well,
right?
one thing I could say is I definitely feel responsible for helping to build some fabulous ladies.
All right.
I got a chance to watch women grow up.
Okay.
I had a lot of clients that came to me from a teenager and then I dealt with them through adulthood. I
Mm-hmm.
was able to help them advise them on different life-changing decisions.
Yes.
And I've always wanted to be a positive person to share a positive light and give the best feedback. So,
Yeah,
because I get a lot of people that come to me with life-changing decisions. So
absolutely.
you
And
got to
you
have
know
some
what?
type of discernment with that.
Absolutely. And you were going there just a minute ago because you have to be prepared to hear what is going on in people's lives. And we just did a challenge last week. And thank you so much for being one of my elite VIPs on the challenge and really asking the questions that other people are afraid to ask. And even for your own self, seeking information to continually grow and be better so that you can build what you want to build your life to be like to share. But you said something important that you have to be ready to take that
You have to
on
be.
because you
You do.
absorb people's
The energy.
energy. Ha!
Yes.
You
And,
absorb
and
their
so
energy.
protecting your energy when you're not ready is, I think, the most important thing a person can do. And a lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, I went to get a service from such and such, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
service may be, and she had such an attitude, or
Yeah,
she wasn't a pleasant person to deal with. And a lot of that usually has to do with their own personal lives. And
that's
it's real
right.
easy to bring your personal life to work and wear it.
That's right.
So
That's right.
knowing when to cut that off is important.
And that's the self-awareness piece that we talked about last week in the challenge. And I think a lot of people don't take the time to become self-aware.
Mhm.
Identify what those things are that are triggering you to have a bad attitude when you go to work, right? With self-awareness, you're able to say, well, you know what? Whenever this happens, I feel this way. I'm not going to let this happen anymore, so I don't have that terrible feeling. How do you keep positivity, and if you want to share some of the things you've been through in the last whenever we've talked since we had agreed to meet and do this together, you've always been positive, even though we talked about the hardest topics. How do you stay? And I know it's not this way every day. Don't get me wrong, that I'm
Oh,
thinking that
there's
you
good
are
days, there's
bouncing on a
bad
cloud
days,
every day.
but
Mm-hmm.
positiveness and a good attitude is a choice.
Yes,
It's a
absolutely.
choice.
Yeah.
You just like being depressed and sad is
Mm-hmm.
also a choice. Because I
Absolutely.
went through times where I was like extremely depressed, especially like you said, we're going to talk about a few of the things. First my
Mm-hmm.
mother passed
Oh, wow.
abruptly, and then
Mm,
6 months later my daughter ended up having stage 4 brain cancer. And I had to close my business and, become her hospice provider.
Yes.
And it's one of the hardest things that I think any mother can ever
Yes.
do is have to watch their child die.
Oh my
And
gosh.
one of the things that kept me grounded was, if I look at her sad, if I look at the kids sad,
Yeah.
if I look at my family members sad, then they're going to break down and be sad as well. And
Mm-hmm.
by keeping the best positive attitude that I could, it kept the momentum around me always lightweight. And it kept
Mm-hmm.
people, instead of crying around her, just trying to make her happy, because that's what it was
Yes.
about, is making every last moment count and as happy as it could be, keeping the kids as happy as they could be, keeping
Yeah.
the relatives as happy as they could be during that time. And
Yes.
no, it's not easy,
Mm-hmm.
but somebody has to do it. And I think,
Somebody has to
again,
set the tone.
somebody has to set the tone. And as a mother, as a woman who's like in charge of my whole family unit,
Yeah. Yeah. A
I
lot of
set that tone.
responsibility.
It's a
Be-
lot of responsibility.
because the
It is.
responsibility doesn't stop based on our emotions.
No,
Even,
or what you're going through.
or what you go through, even though we're going through something that to this point is the most devastating thing that we could imagine or experience. And God bless you, Okela, because not only did you have to uh, resonate with the fact that your daughter will be moving on, you had her, you have to take responsibility for her children and your children. You still have other children. So
That is correct.
you
Yeah.
couldn't fall down and not pull it together, and so, or keep it together. I won't say pull it together, but keep it together. And that takes some type of fortitude. Some people call it strength.
Yes.
um it is
Yes.
strength. However, I'm always cautious, and forgive me for those who really don't understand, and maybe we could break it down a little bit. I'm always cautious with ascribing the word strength to African American women, because while you are strong because you have these things you're responsible for and the things that you're going through, you still need help. You still need
Yeah.
assistance. Still need somebody
Yeah.
to come in and check on you and make sure you're good and take care of you and cover you. And when we get the moniker of being strong, it's not true. I mean that in the sense that, yes, we've had stuff that we have to bear and go through that's different from what other people have to bear and go through. At the same time, we're women, we're people, and we need that covering and support.
And and one thing that I've learned throughout this situation is, sometimes you wish that you may have more support than you have.
Yeah.
And it's not always like that. I'm
Mm,
very thankful, and I have such gratitude for the small circle that did support me. I had a
okay.
supporting partner. I had
Mm,
some supporting relatives. I
yes.
had a few supporting clients, because everybody didn't even know what I was going through.
Right. And that's the
I
other
didn't.
thing, sharing that is also, you have to reserve it so you can protect your emotions. Because, like you were saying earlier, people coming to you crying about your situation when you are having to keep yourself together to control the
Last
environment,
thing you
you
want to
don't
hear.
share it
It's the
with
last thing you
everybody.
want to hear.
Yeah.
If I'm not crying, I can't take you coming to cry with me. So it's
Yeah.
like, call me back after that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked real hard to keep my emotions in check. And like
Yes.
I said, it's a choice. One thing I realize is, like, you could feel when you become overwhelmed with emotion.
Yes.
And it usually happens within that first 30 seconds to a minute.
Yeah.
And within that time, you have the power right then to go head down sadness lane, or
Yes.
stop where you're at
Yes.
and think about what you do have to be grateful for, and to keep
Absolutely.
moving forward, whatever you need to do for the day. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
lie, there were days that I just went on and let that emotion swell up.
Oh
There were days,
yeah.
and I just went and laid in the bed, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. And
but
that's where emotional intelligence comes in, because we, that whole strong thing, it, it makes you think that we don't. a person doesn't have to express emotion, but I always talk about vulnerability as a key to intimacy and to building relationship. Because
It's a
if
time
you're
and a
so
place.
strong and nobody knows that you need help, or nobody knows that you're feeling this way, they can't read your mind. How are you going to get it? So, but I think there's value in releasing and
Yes.
acknowledging the pain that you have, but finding what is going to work for you to help you move forward, whether that is just taking that day and just not doing anything, but recognizing that.
And feeling it and
Yeah,
feeling
and
it.
feeling it.
I'm not gonna lie. I was so depressed. During like right at the end, at her sickest time. I remember
Mm-hmm.
going to my doctor, and she's prescribed me some uh psychotropics.
Okay, all
And
right.
which is nothing is wrong with them, but
Yes.
I wanted to feel it
Yeah.
because if I didn't feel it now, I knew I would feel it later.
And
And I
feeling it
allowed
helps you move
myself.
on, move forward.
Yeah,
I don't want to say
yeah.
move
Now,
on, but move
for the days that
forward.
I really needed it,
Mm-hmm.
I did partake just to get through, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to make it something that I had to rely on to where,
Yes.
okay, because I wanted to get my own emotions in check, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
and I knew that I needed help during that last part because it was extremely emotional. And
Yes.
one thing I had to learn is if you don't have a village, because it takes a village to help with the children. Okay.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have
Absolutely.
one, you need to put it in your budget and purchase it. And
All right.
so,
Listen, I'm
uh,
gonna tell you, you said that in the elite VIP room, and I used that in the Facebook group because that makes perfect sense.
yes,
Because we all think, especially when you're young having children or when you're single having children, you just assume that mom, grandmom, your cousins, your sister are going to jump in and take up that slack where you need it. But uh, what people need to realize is that a village comes in many ways. You have to
yes,
develop a village. You
yes,
have to start
yes.
by being that person that does things for other people when you recognize that they need help, not just, say, well, if you need me, call me. I try to stop saying that. Like, what do you need? Or if I don't even ask, I would just send money or send a thing or send
Right,
food.
that and that part right there, do what you
Yeah,
can, because you hear that all the time is
yeah,
let me know if you need me. But a lot of people cannot help you in what you really need them to do.
that's
So
true.
instead of asking, let me know if you need me, do what you know that you can
Just
do,
do what you're going to do. Do
whatever
what you're
that
going to
is that
do.
you can do. Because
Yes.
see, sending over a hot meal is what you can do. You may
Yeah.
not can help watch the kids, but you can send a meal.
Or know
You
that you need a break. Maybe you can watch the kids and that's all you can do. Say, hey, I know
A
it's been a
lot of
minute.
people don't want to watch your kids. Okay. A lot of your family members don't want to watch your kids,
And so
and
the
you might
solution
have
is,
some that do. So this is why if you could go to concerts, if you could go out to eat, if you could go and party,
mhm,
you could put some money aside so that you can do these things without a problem, without bugging people that may have no interest in doing it,
yeah,
because
that's true.
it's
And then
nobody's responsibility but yours.
the other thing about hiring family and relatives. I mean, we had a business for 30 years and we don't have much family. And in the city of Detroit, we owned a flower shop and wedding chapel. And we hired friends and the friends became family. And then we hired their family in. But what I learned is that I love these people outside of their support for our business. And
Mhm.
so that love filters in to when there is a hard time where I need to say, hey, I need you to do this or you didn't do it right. So sometimes, depending on what the support is you need, it is better to go outside and hire somebody so that
Yeah,
you can have the structure and have the expectations set for what it is that you need, especially
very
in
true.
business, which is
Yeah.
definitely important. Um, I was talking to someone the other day and they want to hire staff and they're a solopreneur and they're trying to build their business and scale their business. And I said, sometimes support is software. Sometimes
Yeah,
support is a
that's right.
freelancer.
That's right.
Sometimes support
That's right.
is you have to pay for it. So I use that. Thank you for that nugget, Okela, because it is something that we have to wrap our minds around when we think of a village or we think of a support, recognizing that everybody's doing something. They're on their own,
Yes.
they don't have time. It's not like
Yeah.
that
And
anymore.
you can't take it personal. A lot
No.
of times I think that people take it personal because moms couldn't step in when you needed her to,
Mm-hmm.
or your
Mm-hmm.
cousin couldn't take you where she needed, where you needed her to take you.
Yeah,
And but you never know what's going on in these people's lives,
that's
which is
true.
why you have to have your own way of doing what you have to do that has nothing. And if you have to pay for it, be
You have
prepared
to
for
have
that.
plan A and B in most cases,
And
especially
see,
when you
just
deal
in
and
case.
C, especially when you're dealing with other people because things suddenly come up or there's an emergency, but you still have to progress and move on. So let me ask you about that. You said you're back out here. You out here now.
Hey.
You out here, Okela. What are you doing? And before I get into what you are doing, right? What is the emotional trait that you're focused on right now for your next level, your next creation of what your environment is going to be like? Because it's going to be totally different from what you've ever experienced right now
Well,
in your
you,
life.
you know, when you've been through a lot, that never leaves you, and you kind of
Yes.
take that with you. And it's amazing, like how now I seem to run into so many people who have been through similar situations. And
Mm,
so being able to talk with them on an understanding level is a lot
yes.
different than just speaking for, oh, I feel your pain, honey. No, no,
Yes.
no, I've lived your pain, honey.
Yes. Yeah,
you know
yeah, it makes a
and
difference.
just talking about coping situations, because there's so many people that aren't necessarily coping well.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always have to keep in mind is, I felt bad because I didn't have new shoes until I met the man who had no feet. You see, and so
Uh-huh.
there's so many. You think that your problems are bad. Yes, I went
There's
through death
somebody
and I
else.
went through this and I went through that. But you got people that's going through so many different things. I have talked to some people who have some stories that were extremely horrid.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a soft death in a sense. I knew it
Yeah.
was coming. You have
Yeah.
people that had to deal with death
Suddenly.
abruptly,
Mm-hmm.
or finding someone, or
Yeah.
that these are things that don't necessarily leave you either.
Yeah, and the
You
thing
know,
you hit on another key point is when we go through something hard or something tragic, you know, there is a part of you that should recognize that there is someone else going through something more tragic or more difficult. The thing that I think about all the time, every day, to keep me motivated, to keep me encouraged when I'm disappointed or something didn't turn out like it is to every day look back and be thankful for something, have gratitude
something.
for something.
Yeah.
Because if you never think about things that did go well, or when you came out of a really difficult time, you don't understand or remember that you can get through this too, even though it is hard. You can
And
look
this
back
is,
and see where you've
yeah.
done things. Yeah.
And this is why, too, when you go through something extremely hard, you have to do what's best for you. For some people, it might be
Uh-huh.
to throw themselves into work and be busy. But for me, it was the complete opposite. For me, I needed to take myself away.
Well,
I
at
needed to
the
be less
intensity that
accessible.
you operate, Okela, you operate at a high intensity with the things you do, with the projects that you do. I definitely see how you would need time to get things settled, first of all, create a routine, and understand how you're going to pivot. Because I've seen you pivot, I've seen you move through living this lifestyle one day, and then, oh, I'm doing this, and then, pivot. Talk about what it's like when you understand that it's time for me to make a move, or when it's time for me to add a new skill on, or take this risk, or put myself out there.
You know,
What do you
like
feel when that happens?
even right now, like in the inside, I knew I felt ready, but at the same time, I wasn't ready. So I
Yeah.
forced myself to do it. I
Mhm.
pushed myself out there. I start doing different things. Right now, I'm even hosting an Airbnb.
Okay.
So besides doing hair, so I'm doing multiple things to, stay creative and keep my, brain alive, and,
Yeah.
also to not just get bored in one place.
Uh-huh.
So that's always been a thing for me, is to do multiple things, because you can really get
Mhm.
complacent in just one thing if
Yeah.
that's, not enough for you.
I've always been that way too. If I work 40 hours, I got something on the side I'm doing, whether it was teaching, whether it was
Mhm.
starting a business. Look, I can't tell you the number of things that I've done, from television to radio to promotion to, executive producing things. But what
You had to
happens
jump
for
out
me?
there, though. You
You
had
have
to
to
jump
put
out
yourself
there,
out there. But what
whether you
happens for
scared
me?
or not,
Yes,
whether you ready or
especially when
not.
you're not scared. But what happens for me typically when I recognize that it's time for me to expound on a skill or try something different is that I first get the thought, right? And
Yes.
or I have a dream about, or I feel something inside propelling me towards something that I hadn't thought about before. And when I tell people, when I reach out to people, or when I talk to people and they say, well, I don't know, I don't have anything I want to do and I don't have any dreams, I always say, well, then you need to expand what entertainment you're consuming, what you're reading, the things that you are thinking about, so that you can have the opportunity to dream. What do you do to kind of keep yourself creative? Because especially when you don't have the space because you have a lot of things to do, how do you say, okay, well, look, I know I got to go in here and I'm gonna whip this wig up. Like, what's going to give me the, you know what I'm saying, the prompt for you to go ahead and hook that wig up?
It like, one thing about me, I always say, if it wasn't for the last minute, nothing would get done. I know no matter what, I'm all about a deadline.
Yeah,
I give myself a lot of deadlines,
yeah,
and I normally, if I give myself a deadline, I'm going to make that deadline. It might
okay.
be 30 seconds before the deadline hit, but
But it's
I'm
gonna do
going
it.
to make that deadline. So
Now that
I'm
works in
looking
some
for them.
sense
Yeah. So, and that's
instances.
what I need,
Mm-hmm.
just like sometimes too, I have to create in my business, there is no self-discipline. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, there's no discipline. So I
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
create self-discipline.
Yes, yes,
Like
I
I
get that.
can't really get fired, or
Yes,
you may lose a client, but you can't get fired,
yes,
or, it's sort of like, so you got to do things to create the discipline. Every now and again, I just take a class so I can have a reason to get up at a certain time,
yeah, yeah.
or
You put
it
your,
gives
I
me a
like
reason to
saying,
study.
you put your body under subjection. Like, you can't
Yes.
just go along to get along. Like, okay, I'm settled now. I got this job. This job is working well for me, or my business is coasting along and it's working fine. So I'm just going to make sure I take every weekend off. I have somebody else to do this. So I don't. What I found is complacency is the devil. When
Ooh,
you get settled in a place, you are asking for the wrong things to come into your life because you're idle at this point.
but see, when you get settled, also, that's when you forget what your goals and dreams are.
Yeah.
And this is how you forget, because even for me, I had a period of time that, for while after I had took time off, I had forgot about what a lot of my goals and dreams were, because I
Hmm.
felt like I'm definitely not the person, and this is true, and to this day, I am not the person from before the pandemic. You
Yes.
know,
That goes for
um,
everybody. Just, you
yeah,
can't be. How can you? How can you?
right. And so a lot of my goals did change. A lot of my
Yeah.
dreams did change. But the longer I kind of stayed off, and the more I started coming back to myself, I started realizing that those dreams from long ago are still there. And a
Yeah.
lot of
Hmm.
people always had the dreams, but they forget them.
That's
Life
right.
will make you forget what
Yeah.
you wanted,
Yeah.
and so being able to find that again,
Yes.
even if you got it. And so, like for me, I just push myself back out there. And the more I start pushing myself out there, the more I realize that I miss this, I
And the
miss
more
this
you
type
push
of
your
work. I miss this type of excitement.
the more you push yourself out there, the more opportunities come your way. I mean, okay, I tell people all the time, especially, well, I mean, single women. I counsel a lot of single women, and they are